Hi BookTube! My name is Crystal, also known as The.Book.Gypsy on Instagram, and today I'm going to be doing my 10 most anticipated reads for this fall. So today I have 10 books that I'm highly anticipating to read in the fall. It's very hard to narrow it down to just 10. There are so many that I'm looking forward to, and I'm sure this list is going to grow. But as of right now, my list is 10 that I definitely need to get my hands on, physical copies, as soon as possible. And I can't wait for Halloween. I can't wait for the fall. I can't wait to get into that spirit. I mean, on the East Coast, we've kind of had a very dreary summer, so it's really put me into an early fall mode where I just, I have my autumn candles lit, just hanging out in my room most of the time reading and, kind of waiting for the fall to happen. It's very humid and it's very rainy and it's depressing. I wanted to do this video to kind of get myself and you guys excited for some fall reads that are coming out. First book I'm highly anticipating is Vengeful by V.E Schwab. I had read Vicious this year for the first time and I absolutely loved it. Now V.E Schwab, or Victoria Schwab, she is my favorite author. I love her books. I love her writing style. I love the covers that she chooses for her books. Like, everything she does is how I would do it if I was a writer. So I love everything she does. I love her books. Vengeful is the follow-up novel of Vicious. It is basically a part 2. The book was written not necessarily to have a book 2, but Victoria Schwab did write a second book. I know it took her a very long time to write the second book. She's a perfectionist with her stories and she wanted this story to be perfect. I know we were getting a new character in this book, in this series. I don't know if it's going to be a series. I don't know if she's going to continue to write book 3. I would love a book 3. I would love this just to continue, but no pressure there for Victoria. Let's see how Vengeful plays out, and if it leaves on a cliffhanger like Vicious did, then we're gonna need book 3. So it's coming out September 25th, 2018, this year, and it's soon. It's almost a month away, so I'm very excited for that to come out. The next book is Muse of Nightmares. I can't wait for this. Strange the Dreamer was my favorite book this year that I've read. I kept putting that book off, and I had it in my possession for a couple years. I've had it, and I would always start it, and I'm like, I can't get into this right now. I just can't. I'm not in the mindset for it right now. But I finally read it, and it was beautiful. Muse of Nightmares is the second book in, I'm not sure what it's called. It's not like a name of a series or anything, but it's the follow-up book to Strange the Dreamer, and it's coming out October 2nd, so I can't wait for that. So next book on my highly anticipated reads list is Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton. I've never read anything from Tessa Gratton. I have Queens of Innislayer on my TBR, but I haven't picked it up yet. It's very intimidating, but this book sounds like so perfect for me. It's a witch book, and then when I read the first 2 sentences on the synopsis, I was like, yep, check, I'm reading this. I don't want to read any further than this, so let me read it to you really quick. If you're into witch stories, and I don't know if this is considered a horror book, but I know it's like an adult fantasy book, I'm excited. Once a witch made a pact with the devil. The legend says they loved each other, but can the story be trusted at all? Find out in this lush atmospheric fantasy novel that entwines love, lies, and sacrifice. Long ago, a village made a bargain with the devil to ensure their prosperity when the slaughter moon arises. The village must sacrifice a man into the depths of the devil's forest. I was like, okay, gonna read that. Definitely excited for that to come out. That is coming out September 18th. It is on the top of my list. I know a couple people had gotten ARCs for it or galleys for it, and the ratings are great on Goodreads, so I can't wait to read that book. Next on my list is Toil and Trouble, and this is 15 stories about witchcraft, and it's by a slew of authors. Not exactly sure all of them. I didn't really research the authors in the book yet. It's coming out August 28th, and I am so excited for this. I'm gonna try to save it for the fall, try to save it for September at least to read it. I love the cover. I love that it's 15 stories of witches and witchcraft. if you've been watching my channel for as long as I've been on here now, you know that I love witch stories and witch books and books about the supernatural or horror and stuff like that. So I'm super excited to get into this. Next up, Grim Lovelies by Shepard. This book is kind of whimsical, but it also sounds really sad and like horrible. I don't know if it would be considered like urban fantasy, but from reading the synopsis, it kind of is a little bit like the Hazelwood in a way. From reading the synopsis, it says that it's an animal to a human girl. So this girl was an animal or considered a beastie, and a witch turns her into a girl for a short amount of time so she could feel like she's part of society. But there's other things that happen, and there's other beasties, and I don't really know much about it, and I don't really want to know much about it because, you know, everyone has their opinions. So I would love to go into Grim Lovelies not knowing much. The synopsis of Grim Lovelies. 17-year-old Anouk envies the human world where people known as pretties lavish themselves in fast cars, high fashion, and have the freedom to fall in love. But Anouk can never have those things because she is not really human. Enchanted from animal to human girl and forbidden to venture beyond her familiar Parisian prison, Anouk is a beastie, destined for a life surrounded by dust bunnies and cinders, serving Maida Vitora, the evil witch who spelled her into existence. That is until one day she finds her mistress murdered in a pool of blood, and Anouk is accused of the crime. Now the world she always dreamed of is rife with danger. Pursued through Paris by the underground magical society known as the Haute, Anouk and her fellow beasties only have 3 days to find the real killer before the spell keeping them human fades away. If they fail, they will lose the only lives they've ever known. If they succeed, they could be more powerful than anyone ever bargained for. It sounds like it's going to be a series, and it just sounds really good. So I'm looking forward to Grim Lovelies. I hope you all are too. That is coming out October 2nd, which there's a lot of books coming out October 2nd, so we're all going to be doing a lot of book shopping that day. Another book that I'm highly anticipated reading is Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel. I'm not exactly sure who that's by. I don't know if it's like by Disney or however they're working it, because Hocus Pocus, the movie, was written before the book, the novelization was written. So I'm very excited to read Hocus Pocus and then the all-new sequel, just to kind of get into the Halloween spirit. I am so excited for that. I really loved Hocus Pocus as a kid, and now it's my favorite Halloween movie. I could probably recite every line from that movie like the back of my hand. So I'm really looking forward to reading Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel. Next I have The Witch of Willow Hall. Now this book is by Hester Fox and it's coming out October 2nd. This is a book basically about like a haunting of a witch that was from Salem, Massachusetts. So her spirit seems to still linger 200 years after the witch trials. I'm very excited to get into that. There's not much of the synopsis, and I don't want to know too much, because if it's a haunting, if it's some type of thriller-esque type book, I'm really excited to get into that. The first line of the synopsis says, 2 centuries after the Salem witch trials, there's still one witch left in Massachusetts. That's like right up my alley. I love stories like that. I am always looking for more books about, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, of the witches of Salem. I just really enjoy books like that. And I love the female empowerment of what witchcraft really is. And looking forward to The Witch of Willow Hall. I've heard some good things about it. I know it's flying pretty low on the radar, so if you haven't heard of it, check it out on Goodreads. Add it to your TBR pile for the fall, because it seems like it's going to be a really good read. The next book that is on my list is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White, and that is coming out September 25th of this year. I am very excited for this book. I love Frankenstein stories. I'm excited to see how Kiersten White, does her take on it. I'm currently reading And I Darken right now, and I'm trying to read everything that Kiersten White is putting out at the moment, because she's writing a book in the Buffy universe, which is my favorite TV show of all time. So I'm so excited that she's coming out with this book. Really excited to get into that. So I want to read most of her work before that happens. And I believe Slayer is coming out in January, which is my birthday. So it's going to be like a nice little birthday present for me. So The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, basically about Frankenstein, the doctors, or the scientist, or whatever he is, his love interest. So how, it's kind of like his backstory in a way, and how he was before he created this monster Frankenstein. And I'm sure he's creating monsters. She possibly could be a monster herself. I'm not exactly sure. We shall see. I don't know much about this book, but I'm very excited to get into it and see what it's about. And next up, I have The Sacrifice Box by Martin Stewart. Now, I've seen this book on Instagram. A lot of people are posting it. I think a lot of people had gotten arcs for it. And the cover is really cool. So it definitely intrigued me to look up what this book was about. And it says on the synopsis, Gremlins meets The Breakfast Club, meets Stephen King, and Stranger Things. Immediately I was like, okay, I'm getting this book. So that is coming out August 28th. I don't want to know more about it. It seems like it's a thriller horror type book, and it's like be careful what you put in the box kind of thing. So I'm excited to see how that book is. If you mentioned Gremlins, The Breakfast Club, Stephen King, and Stranger Things, I feel like that's like a synopsis of my childhood. I loved Gremlins growing up. That was one of my favorite horror movies that I've ever watched. And I was really young when I first watched Gremlins, and people were like, what are you watching as a kid? Next book on my list of highly anticipated reads, and this is my last book on my list. Probably not my last, because I'm sure there's more books that are coming out, but Elevation by Stephen King, and that comes out October 30th. Now, I'm not exactly sure if this is going to be like his typical like horror type story, but from the synopsis there's definitely elements of that in this book, but it seems to be more so of like what's going on in society today. And from Stephen King's Twitter feed, I'm sure you guys all know if you follow him on Twitter, he's very much into politics. He's very much into what's going on in society today. I think he wrote a book kind of representing that, but also with his Stephen King essence to it. So there's definitely going to be some horror elements in the book as well, or some type of supernatural elements in the book as well. Excited to read Elevation. I mean, Stephen King putting out 2 books this year. Wow, look at him. So definitely excited for that. I did read The Outsider and I loved it. So that's it for my top 10 highly anticipated reads for the fall. I am so excited for these books to come out. I can't wait to read them. I can't wait to have leaves falling off the trees and being in that fall spirit and Halloween spirit. And I hope you all are too. I hope everyone had a great summer, even though the weather hasn't been so great over here on the East Coast. It was a nice summer anyway, but I'm ready for the fall. I'm ready to get into reading even more. I would love to know what you guys are hoping to read this fall. So leave your comments down below. Like and subscribe if you like this video, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!